Hi, Pilar. Yes, I did. This is part 5 of the ghost story, and this is going to be 3 stories wrapped into one. The first one is going to be seeing the figure on the stairs for the first time, and this is actually in a mirror. So I did you guys a favor, and I started at least a floor plan of the basement when we first moved in. Okay, so here it is. This is what I was saying, like, my room was kind of like a U. So there was like the bathroom, the closet, this little hallway, and I slept in this area over here. I guess I do this. I slept in this area over here. These were the stairs. So in my first story, when I said I tried to run out of the bathroom and run up, that's what was going on, and then the playroom. So my first story was the first time actually seeing the entity that crawled towards me on the stairs. I'm pretty sure this was the same thing. I was getting ready in the bathroom, so I was standing with the mirror, with the sink here. It was on a diagonal, and there were actually the mirrors were angled, almost like a 3 mirror system. So one right behind the sink, and then 2 angled on either side. So there was kind of a straight line back to this door here. And I am going to show you kind of the area of what I saw. Okay, so imagine you're getting ready. You're looking in the mirror. I'm looking in the mirror right now, and I see a flippin' dark head peering out just here. Now, there was a wall right on the other side, and the ceilings were at door level height. They had dropped ceilings in that basement because the 70s were awful to everybody. So I saw this dark shadowed head just sticking out while I'm 12 years old, getting ready for school. So this was not nighttime. I was not sleeping. It was probably 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning. And I saw just this little bloop, stopped what I was doing, turned around to look, and it skittered back this way, which would have been directly into a wall. I quickly decided that my hair could be brushed and my mascara could be put on upstairs in the kitchen where other people were up and about. So yeah, that was the first time. I'm pretty sure that was the same entity, and that was the first time I actually saw them. The second story I have for you is just a very weird phenomenon that happened. So there was one night, the whole night, I really felt like I was being watched. It was very difficult to fall asleep. If I woke up to go to the bathroom, or if I woke up to roll over or get resituated, I just felt like I was being watched, big time. And the next morning, it was the winter time at this point, and there was snow on the ground. My dad was outside shoveling, and he saw something. I'm going to pull up the blueprint. Okay, so you can see here there's the sliding glass door to go outside, and then I had a window. Oh my gosh, why does it do this? I had a window right here in my room, and there was just rocks and gravel outside of it, but it had snowed several inches that night. So my dad came outside, and there were large animal tracks coming up to this window and pacing in front of the window, just pacing. So we had a friend who worked for the Rocky Mountain National Parks. He was, he worked for the animal control, observation, and hunting part of the Rocky Mountain National Park. So we had him come down to look at the tracks, and he was pretty sure they were bobcat tracks. So a bobcat had come to my window and had just paced in front of it, who knows for how long, in the snow. Just paced in front of that window. So not really paranormal, but I still think about that freaky nonetheless, that I was down there I am getting observed by something. Something's watching me. It was actually probably a bobcat. My last story is my brother's first birthday in the house, and what happened then. So he also had a sleepover. All the kids slept in this playroom down here. I actually slept in his room upstairs, and that was an uneventful night for me. However, our cousin was part of his sleepover for his birthday. And at about 11 o'clock at night, my cousin just lost his ever-loving mind. Screaming, inconsolable, sobbing. Now, I'm the oldest, so I think this birthday was probably his 9th or 10th birthday. Probably his 9th. So these are 8 and 9-year-olds. at this sleepover. So my cousin was probably 8 or 9 at the time. My cousin is he's losing it and cannot get words out to my parents. Like, had run up from the basement screaming. So like, we're all up in the kitchen trying to figure out what's going on. And he's insisting, like, we call his mom, we get his mom over there immediately. He will not sleep there. He cannot go back downstairs. He doesn't even want to go get his stuff. He can't, like, and he is like shaking, hyperventilating, barely able to speak, sobbing uncontrollably. My aunt does eventually come. We were able to get a hold of her, and she came, picked him up, and took him back. He would not go back downstairs, so my brother and my dad went down there and gathered up his stuff and brought them upstairs for her while she was on her way over, and my mom and I tried to comfort my cousin. They left. Slumber party resumed. We found out many years later my mom and that cousin ended up getting pretty close, and they talked quite a bit. And somehow the conversation came up. Now, at this point, my cousin was an adult, but the conversation came up about that party and how he just was so beside himself. And my mom said he got really quiet, and he looked at her and said, "Oh yeah, I remember that night. I've never forgotten that night." My mom was like, what happened? You seemed fine, and then you just lost it. Everybody was going to sleep." And he said, "I didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, but I got such a gross feeling of like despair and panic in the pit of my stomach that I knew I couldn't be in that house another second if I could help it." And he said, and it just became so overwhelming. And I knew the one thing I could do to get out of there is just lose my mind. And like, he's like, I was scared and I was definitely panicking, but I knew crying and asking for my mom would get me out of there, which, one, kudos to my aunt for being such a boss bitch, and my cousin knowing at such a young age that he was safe to ask for his mom to come and she would do it and he wouldn't be in trouble. I think that's amazing. But also, like, so many people said this a lot, like when they were over, they just got this feeling of like, almost like terror, like just, they could not stand being there. I had several friends that would come down these stairs and they'd get to the base right here. I had one friend who stopped on the last stair and was like, "I'm not taking another step." And it was daytime. It was like 2 p.m. And he was like, "I'm going upstairs. I absolutely will not be down here." So those are the 3 quick stories wrapped into one. I do want to say, if you made it this far, thank you. A couple things coming up. I am eventually going to do a live with Q&As, but I'd rather tell a couple more stories before I do that so that I don't spoil any stories, but I know there's a lot of questions. I also know, like, my first story, there was kind of some discrepancies about how was I sleeping. My dad woke up. It was a long time ago, and to me, like, it's all happening up here in my head, and so sometimes I forget to, like, mention all the moving parts, but I want to do a live Q&A so we can talk about that. My dad also agreed to let me kind of have an interview with him to ask him some questions that you guys have asked about, like, why did they stay so long? Why didn't they sell the house? When did he start to believe? And I'm also going to ask him to talk about some of his experiences. So I will also be adding those to the playlist, hopefully this weekend. And I know everybody really wants to hear about my mom's experience, and I will get there. You're going to have to be patient because I'm doing this in a linear fashion, like timeline-wise. So we're going to talk about a couple more things that happened, and then I will have a sole video just for what happened to my mom.